If you want, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be all about books that I think have great covers, even though I didn't love them. I thought it would be only fair to do the opposite of my other video where I was talking about books that I adore, but I don't think the covers are really pretty. So just something fun, light. Feel free to agree, disagree in the comment section. I'm basing my reviews on the books, the edition that I have read. So there are a million of editions for some of these. So yeah, let's talk about them. You know what? Let's start with some YA books. I haven't read any in forever, I feel like. But I feel like sometimes it's not even that I think it's the prettiest cover ever. I just feel like it's so appropriate for the book. So let's talk about The Unbecoming of Mary Dyer. I read this edition. I'm pretty sure it's like one of the only editions. And I think it works so well for the book. It's like a paranormal kind of romance-y book. And I expected to adore this when I went into it because the hype, right? On BookTube, it was everywhere. And it has potential. It does. However, I think on Goodreads, it's one of my longest reviews ever because literally everything that annoys me in a YA book is in this book. Literally everything. But I find that the cover, the aesthetic, really works with the concept of the book. And not even just the first book, the rest of the series, which I haven't read. But yeah, not my kind of book, but I can agree that the cover is really gorgeous. And I don't even like people on my covers, and I think that this is pretty. Similarly, When Dimple Met Rishi, I, to be completely honest, never finished the book because, again, ton of potential. It's supposed to be like a coming-of-age, contemporary, romance-y book, and you're following this young girl. She's Indian, and her parents want her to enter arranged marriage, and instead she goes for this competition, for an app competition, and it's insta-lovey. It becomes more about like a dancing competition instead, and it just becomes weird, and she is not super likable because she keeps hitting the boy. Anyway, I had a ton of issues with it, but I feel like it's such a fun, wise, summery cover, and I feel like I would want to buy this. I mean, I've read it, well, attempted to read it, but I feel like if I had read this maybe as a younger teenager, maybe I would have enjoyed it more, but I think the cover is really pretty. It's perfect for the book. The book just didn't work for me. Let's talk about a classic sci-fi, which The Forever War, which I think this edition, which is the edition that I've read, gorgeous. I adore these. To be fair, I love most of the SF Masterworks edition. They're all pretty cool. Like even when you pick one and it's not pretty, like this one, I still feel like I like them because I want to hoard all of them. I wish they were easier to find. They're getting harder and harder to find. I get a lot of questions on these. I want to have enough to do like a full shelf, and I'm not sure it's going to be able to be a thing because they're hard to find now. But this edition, gorgeous. I didn't care for the book because of the misogyny and racism and homophobia. You get it. Let me read you one of the sections because I always get comments that I'm like imagining it, and I can't say I agree. So you have these people, the army people, arriving to a place to just sleep off, and it goes with, then unleashed Stargate's 18 sex-starved men on our women, compliant and promiscuous by military custom and law, but desiring nothing so much as sleep on solid ground. Basically, women in the future, they get sexually assaulted by men, and it's part of the custom and the law. I'm sorry, no. I had, you can see all the post-its, a few issues with this book, but the cover is gorgeous, so I'm gonna keep it because of that. I don't keep books just because they're pretty very often, but to be fair, it's the edition too. I like having them all match, and it's really common for classic sci-fis to have these issues, sadly. Another classic sci-fi that did not have all of these issues, but I still didn't enjoy it, unfortunately, Dune. I know, there's always this huge controversy. People either really love it or really didn't, which is my case. I struggled to finish this book. I was bored beginning till the end. The wording was just so tedious. I just could not get into it. I did watch the movie, which I enjoyed more than the book, but I really expected to give this book 5 stars. That's why I got this really pretty edition. I probably should just find other books in this series, like this edition, just so I can like get rid of this one because someone would be very happy to have this, right? But yes, I just couldn't get into this book. I really didn't care for it, and I think it's okay for me to like keep mentioning it because it makes other people feel okay for also not enjoying it, because there's just so much pressure to enjoy some of these big classics. But yes, didn't care for it, but I think that this edition is really pretty. I have to see what the other editions are looking like. I don't think they're going to be as pretty, but This one is. Let's talk about fantasy books, because in my last video, a few people mentioned that a lot of fantasy books have boring covers. Like, I agree. Like, Jade City, not the greatest. It's green, so I feel like I just didn't feel the need to mention that it wasn't pretty. And even sometimes with people on the cover, I can enjoy that. Like, the Popular, I think that the whole, like, smoky thing works for me. But one that I think is absolutely gorgeous, but unfortunately I did not like this book, and I'm so annoyed because it was the biggest disappointment, my biggest disappointment of last year. Sunderland Ascends. I have this gorgeous, gorgeous edition. I think this was the edition that was still self-published, and the cover design by Ian Leno. Amazing, absolutely amazing. The whole series is like this, and you're following this man, you know, going up the tower. So I feel like it's just one of the best fantasy covers ever. Unfortunately, I didn't care for it for a few different reasons. First off, didn't start on the right foot because Senlin is married to a much younger wife and they go on honeymoon there, and then horrible stuff happens to her just for him, like in order for him to start his journey, which I hate that trope. That woman in fridge trope, hate it. I only liked the second level of the tower. The rest felt kind of boring and I just lost complete interest very fast, and I just didn't care for it. But I think the cover is absolutely amazing, and I am tempted to keep it just because of that, which is a terrible reason. But yes, definitely one of the best fantasy books that I own that I didn't care for, but I think that looks really gorgeous. Another one was also self-published, actually, the Atlas 6, which everyone on the internet has been losing their shit over this one, and I agree, because I got this because the cover, frankly, the cover, and the fact that it was like Dark Academia, Magical School. Some of my favorite things altogether. I do think that it gets like fingerprints a little too easily, but I love this cover so much. It was re-edited and republished, and I do not like the new cover. I don't understand why I didn't keep this one, because it's so much better. But you just could feel it needed an actual editor, because I have a few issues with it, including the fact that just the story, like, it didn't flow. It has been re-edited. I have not read the new edition. I will not be reading it because I didn't care for it enough. But a lot will say that the new version is better, so might still be worth a read if you are into Dark Academia, magic, and a bunch of insufferable characters, because yes, they are. But that's very common, I feel like, in Dark Academia books. So if you like snobby characters, you're gonna like that. But yes, unfortunately, didn't really care for the book that much, but I think the cover is absolutely stunning. This book has a million edition because it is a classic, but Northanger Abbey. I think this is my least favorite Jane Austen book that I have read, which we did read this with the book club last year, and it's just very disjointed. There's like two parts in it, and I feel like the first part you follow the main character and like her not really having a backbone, basically, and then the second half is more like gothic, which is what I was told the book was about. And I feel like if I compare it to the movie that I watched right after, the movie made so much more sense and explained things better for me, which doesn't happen often that I feel like that. But yes, for this one specifically, I think the edition is stunning. I think it's even the prettiest book in this collection. They all have like a cover, and then the inside is the cover colors of a different book. So this is like the cover for Emma. But yeah, unfortunately, even though it's the prettiest one, I think it's my least favorite book by her ever. I have 2 more to read, but like, it's not looking so good. Another YA book that I didn't care for, but I think the cover is really gorgeous, is 5 Feet Apart, which I believe this was supposed to be like, it's a screenplay. Is that possible? Like the book per se is just like in order to make the movie kind of thing. So it did feel like it was a skeleton of a story. I didn't feel like it was well explained. And then like the second half goes on a whole tangent, but I don't really care for like love stories with 2 sick kids. It is a me problem. But the cover, I think, is absolutely stunning. Stunning. So in the other version of this video, I was mentioning how a ton of mystery thrillers have horrible covers. Straight up horrible covers. So these are the ones that work for me. And as I was preparing this video, I realized that landscapes, that's apparently what's working for me the most. The last thing he told me, we also read this for the book club because this was the Reese with a Spoon book club, and everyone was raving about it. And I do think the concept was more unique, but I really didn't care for how the main character kept like piecing things together. It just made no sense. She would jump weirdly to things, and I was left disappointed. But I think that the cover is really pretty. And again, like I mentioned, landscapes apparently are the thing that works the best for me for covers of mystery, because we also have rock, paper, scissors, which I didn't care for this one. I just feel like it's not super memorable. And the fact that the main male character has a face blindness, I feel like it's a cop-out to make it like more mysterious. I don't know. Again, probably a me problem, but I think the cover, if you look at it from up close, so beautiful. Like not only does the red letters really pop, but you see this like a wintry landscape. It totally works with the story, but I didn't care for the book. This one too, by the way, it works for the story, for the whole houses on water. I could even go as far as like with Malice. I didn't care for the book because it felt very YA. So if I had read this as a teenager, probably would have enjoyed it more. But similar concept, the whole landscapey thing, it works. For the next book, I wanted to mention the third book in the series that I didn't care for, but I only own the first book in the series. So we're gonna go with this, Sleeping Giant by Sylvain Neuvel. I really like the covers for all three books because you get this little hole and then you get to see the actual cover in the back. It's like giant sci-fi robots kind of thing. Alien-y, first contact with aliens, that's definitely something I enjoy. But the covers are really pretty, and this is the third one, what it looks like. The second one is the same concept. But the third book was such a letdown. I don't think anyone really cared for the third book because it just goes on a huge tangent that just, but the cover is really pretty. I do recommend the first book. I did overall enjoy it. It's super quick read because it's a lot of like interviews and emails. Do not recommend the audiobook for the second and third book because when the character is introduced has the worst, whiniest voice ever. But yeah, the covers are gorgeous. I wanted to include a nonfiction since I did the same for part one. So the Sixth Extinction, which I love the cover because it is bright, it's fun, definitely tells you what the book is about. My reasons for not enjoying it are kind of petty, I guess, because it just wasn't exactly what I expected. You know, when you're following an author traveling and like doing your research, they kind of have to be likable a little bit. Otherwise, it just ruins the book. And the main character, not the main character, the author, I just really did not vibe. There's a section where she mentions that she was mad that the person working at the gift shop didn't give her a tour. And she was complaining about it. And I was like, I just really don't like you now. So I think that's part of the reason I just didn't really care for the book. But I do think this is a fun cover for a nonfiction because a lot of them don't have good covers. The next one I'm completely cheating because I mentioned that I wanted to review the edition that I have read, and it's not true for this one, but it's such a good example of US versus UK edition. Like Uprooted by Naomi Novik. This is the edition that I have read. I don't like it. I don't like it. And this book was a disappointment for me because I had been told that it was like a girl is being picked by the dragon every X amount of years to, you know, save her village. But turns out that literally from the first chapter, it's not a spoiler, and I feel like people know now, the dragon's actually a man. And like it becomes like an abusive relationship, in my opinion. Didn't finish the book, so I can't really, you know, finish that thought. But from what I have read, it looked like it was going in that direction, and I really didn't care for the magic system. It was like very vague, kind of like magical realism-ish for me. But the cover, the UK edition, which I almost bought, and I kind of always still want to buy. Like, what is wrong with me? Because I didn't care for the book, but this cover is so beautiful. Like, literally one of the prettiest cover ever for fantasy books. So, if you want to try it and you want to buy it, definitely go with the UK edition if you can find it. But yes, I just really didn't like the US one. Anyone disagrees? Because I feel like it's the same for like other books that she has published. The US version is just not so great compared to the UK one. So that's it. These are books that, in my opinion, were disappointing to me for my taste, but I think the covers are really pretty. So now you know a little bit more what I enjoy, because I feel like some people were confused. What do you like then in the other version? Maybe I could do a video where with the ugliest covers and then the prettiest covers I've ever read. That could be another video. We could talk about them because I really want to hear your opinions, because we all have very, very different taste. But yes, specifically what I've noticed is that I don't really care for people in my covers, but it can work for YA specifically. And I feel like landscapes for mystery thrillers, it's just what works the best for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thumbs up, subscribe. I will be putting more videos on the screen that I recommend you check out, and I will see you in an upcoming video very soon. Kiss on a cheek or love in just